Hello friends, welcome back to Aunt Debbie's Boutique. Today we're going to start on a new project, and that is a crazy quilt that we're going to make into a jacket. I've been wanting to do this for a long time, and I decided now was the time, especially after I found this beautiful set of fat quarters called Hydrangea Mist, and it is from Wilmington Prints. I'm going to open it up now and show you all the beautiful prints that are in this. And I just thought this would make the sweetest little girl's crazy quilt jacket. So that's what I'm going to use it for. Now I also purchased some yardage because I'm going to need some for the lining and the facings, and I also thought I might make her some coordinates, some little pants or skirt or something to go with it. So I'm going to lay these aside for later, and we're going to concentrate on the fat quarters. Now, the pattern I chose to use, and I've never used one of these ladies' patterns before, but it was exactly what I was looking for. It is by Kate Sew, and it's a kid's quilt coat pattern. And this was the picture here that caught my eye, because that was exactly what I was looking for. More of a jacket than a big, bulky, heavy coat with a hood and all that. So I'm going to do the jacket with the little Peter Pan collar on it. And so I put together the pattern pieces, and I didn't want, it calls for 1.5 yards of fabric for the size I'm making, and I didn't necessarily want to make an entire 1.5 yards of fabric and then have all that waste. So I took each pattern piece, the 2 front pieces, the back piece, and the 2 sleeve pieces. Those are the only ones that need to be cut out of this quilt. And I measured them and decided how many squares. I'm going to make 6.5-inch squares of crazy blocks. And let's see here. I figured that I needed 4 by 3 blocks for the back. So that was a total of 12 blocks. I needed 3 by 2 for each sleeve. So that was another 12 blocks for when you had 2 sleeves. And then I needed 4 by 2 for each side front, which was another 16. So I need a total of 40 blocks. And when they're sewed together, they're going to be 6-inch blocks. But I am starting with a 7-inch block. I just cut these out of muslin. You want something kind of lightweight, because we're going to put another fabric on it, the back of it, to quilt it. And so we want just something lightweight and something that doesn't show through your other fabrics. So if you had real light colored fabrics and you were using something dark, it would show through. So I just took some muslin I had and cut it into 7-inch blocks. When I'm through making a block, I'm going to get my 6.5-inch ruler out and square it up, cut off the excess. And the reason I'm doing that is when you're quilting things, they can skinch up a little, you know, and not end up being perfectly square and all that. So as you know, if you followed me for long, I always like to make my things a little bit bigger and then cut them down. Okay, a crazy quilt just a minute. I'm going to get a crazy quilt I'm working on and show it to you, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm sorry. I meant to get this out before I started recording and forgot. But this is a couple of blocks that I've made, and I'm doing these all by hand. Well, not all by hand. I sewed the pieces on by machine. Then I've come back later and I'm embellishing it in all, I don't know if you can see the little flowers here. Here's got a lot of beading. I put these jewels on it, made this little flower, some more flowers, added some braid, butterfly, and beaded it all up, put beads all on there. The ribbon embroidery here in both corners. Here's a second one. And I've done a lot with ribbon embroidery on these, and buttons. I've made several of the blocks. This was a Block of the Month Club by Gloria McKenna out of Australia, and I got this years ago, and it's very time consuming, but I love working on it, and I take it out every few years and work on it for 6 months or something, and then it ends up back in the box, and because other things take precedent. But I think I've done about 5 or 6 of the blocks, and there was one for every month. This is November, and that's why it says give thanks. And she just sends you a bunch of fabrics and a picture of the one she did. She gives you the embellishment and ribbon and stuff, but none of the stuff she gives you looks like the one she made. So you pretty much have to just come up with your own design. But I know this is going to be gorgeous if it ever gets done. And this is the way crazy quilts were made way back when. And so we are going to make a crazy quilt, which just takes scraps of fabric in a colorway. And I mean, they don't even have to be in a colorway. And you can see how they're just sewn on, kind of looks like random. There is a method to how you put them together. And then you come back and embellish them. And what we're going to do is we're going to put all of our scraps on a block, and then we're going to come back and embellish on the machine. And you know, all those pretty stitches you have on your machine, we're going to use those and go over a lot of the edges, and that's what's going to be our quilting. And if that doesn't make sense, it will as we go. Okay, now to get started, we need a bunch of scraps, and our blocks are going to obviously be much smaller. And as much as it pains me, I'm going to take these fat quarters and cut them up into scraps. And that seems almost sacrilegious, but it has to be done. So I'm going to take an assortment here. And it wouldn't hurt to iron these all before we got started. However, it's not really going to matter because we're making scraps out of them. So if they're not, I mean, they're going to be cut wonky anyway. So let's see. I think I'll do about 4 at a time. And the first thing I want to do, I hope I can cut through all 4 of these, because that's going to be like 12 layers because I have them all folded. We'll see. Almost. If I'd pressed a little harder, I'd have got to it. I think it's only the bottom one that I didn't get through. So I'm gonna get rid of my selvage. Maybe I better just do 2 at a time. And then I don't want them to be real big pieces because these are small blocks. But I'm just gonna cut some kind of wonky pieces. And I'm not gonna cut up the whole fat quarter right now. I'm just gonna do a few of each one of them. And I do want my pieces to be not too narrow because time we take a seam, okay, I'm gonna put this aside. Then I'll take these 2. And we do need a few small ones like this for the center to get started. That's my blade's already getting dull. I just changed it not that long ago. Okay. I think I'll move these out of the way and that while I'm cutting. Cut off my selvages. Now I know some people use selvages and things like this, but I don't. I don't think selvages are that pretty, so. Okay, obviously this isn't enough to do 40 squares, but this will get me started pretty good. And I don't want to waste all the fabric. By cutting it all up, I'll just cut up as much as I need for a while. I'm going to just kind of pull them all apart here, so I have a nice pretty pile. And I think I'll start with this pretty pink 4-sided piece, and I'm going to stick it right here in the middle of my square. Then I'm going to take a piece like this and put it on top of it. and sew 1/4 inch seam, open it up, and then I'll take a straight edge. This is the only way to get it done accurately, and lay that straight edge on top of that and cut it off going at the same angle. Then I'll turn it and sew on, find a different piece here. Then sew it and trim it. So let's go over to the machine and I'll sew a square for you, and then we'll talk about where we're going to go from there. You want to make sure you stop right at the edge of your piece. And you also want to open up your block before you mark your cutting line. And then save your little pieces you cut off, because you can still use them. Okay, that one's not going to extend out long enough, so we'll have to cover it with something. So I'm going to do another one here to extend that. So since that wasn't long enough, I put that little piece on there, and now I'm going to make this whole line straight with the very first block. Okay, down here where it's sticking outside of the block, I'm just going to trim that off. And right here, I'm just going to extend this line, which is this whole line here. Okay. I want to make sure that when I open this up, that line's going to get extended and this one is. So I want to have a piece that's long enough. Okay. That should be long enough if I start it there. Now I'm going to extend this line from this pink all the way up. And this line along this other beige piece. I can just trim this off even with the edge of my muslin piece, my foundation piece. I'm finger pressing it down as good as I can. No, that's not going to be big enough. Let's find a bigger piece. Now, I've got this little corner sticking out. Ideally, I would have liked for it to have gone all the way to the corner, but it didn't. So I'm just going to put something kind of small there. And I'm going to start it back here because we're going to be trimming, and I don't want to trim on a seam. Well, I sewed that on upside down. Okay, well, we'll just take it out. This is a good time for a lesson on taking out seams. Did you know that if you will clip every third stitch, it will just pull right out? Then you just go like that and it comes right off. And your back thread is all in one piece, so you don't have an astronomical number of pieces. Now I don't know what I did with that piece. So we'll use this one. Okay, now when I open it, I can just turn it to the back and trim off the excess, and our corner is covered there. Okay, let's go back to over here. Other than sewing the piece the wrong direction, you can't really make a mistake on this, because if you end up with something that's too short, you just sew another piece. Oh, I got two pieces the same color there, but it doesn't matter. I try not to do that, but it really doesn't matter. Then on this end, I'm just gonna trim it with the edge of the block. Okay, I think I'm gonna go ahead and finish out this piece. See if this'll I think it will. I might take a little bit narrower seam allowance just to make sure. Yep, it's going to be wide enough on all sides. So I'll just turn it to the back and trim the excess. And when we get done, I'm going to trim off all these extra threads on the back. I'm going to iron it real good, and then we'll trim it down. Okay, let's see. What do we need here? Maybe another blue of some sort. See if I can find a wider one that might. Not quite. Oh well, we'll just do a couple of different fabrics. Not quite big enough. I think that'll do it. Okay, it's a little bit short, but I'm not going to worry about that. We'll just trim that part off when we're trimming, because we are going to trim it down. And I don't like seam allowances too close to the edge because they get caught up in the next seam allowance. But see, that's only just less than 1/4 of an inch there, and we'll be trimming it down, and then there'll be a 1/4 inch seam when we attach it to the next one. Okay, I think we can get this in one more piece. Wait, make sure. I think I'll bring that up a little bit so it covers that. Okay, we have the same issue here, but I think we're going to be within the margin of error. Okay, let's go back over to the ironing table. Okay, here's our block. Let's give it a good steam press first. Then cut off this machine I'm using right now. I have to have real long threads, or every time I start to sew a seam, it comes unthreaded. It's very frustrating. I'll be glad when my other two machines get back. Okay, I'm going to trim up a little bit. So that we are the same size as the block. And that's so when I trim it down, there's no optical illusions that I have a bigger block than I really do, because you want your block to have this backing on the whole thing so everything is equal weight when you go to put it together. Okay, now then I'm going to take it over to the machine real quickly and just stitch around it. And as you can see, I was worried about these corners. This one corner is still off ever so slightly. I mean, it's a little bit shy, so is that one. But when we trim it down, we're not going to know the difference. Actually, I'm not going to stitch around it till after I trimmed it down, because we would just cut that off. Okay, I'm going to just center this. You can put it on there any way you want, just as long as it covers everything. And before I do that, this ruler's been slipping around on me. I'm going to put some of these little dots on it that they're little sticky dots, and you put it on the back of your ruler, whatever you want to call the back. I guess I'll call this the back. I still have tape on it from when we were doing our quilt. But this will keep it from slipping around when you're cutting. And I've had these for a long time, but I only pulled them out and started using them when I made that last quilt, and I couldn't get over how much better they were. Okay. My main thing is I don't want to have just a little piece of a seam anywhere. And I might right there, so I'm going to slide it a little more over to this side. I am going to have to change this blade already again. Boy, they go dull fast. And I'm going to be ended up trimming off that little white piece that I was short, which I knew would happen. The blade didn't cut completely through some of this. Okay, this is our finished block. I am going to take it over to the machine and just real close to the edge, stitch around it, just either a basting stitch or just a stitch to hold it all in place. But once we get them all made and we put them together, then we're going to sandwich it with some batting and backing. And we're going to come in here and do some little fancy stitches on the seam lines. I'm going to dig through my scrap bin of lace and trims and stuff like that. And if I have anything I think will go with this, we'll stick a little of that on it and embellish it a little bit. But we're going to do that once we have all our blocks made. So this is going to be the end of today's video, just showing you how to make the blocks. I'm going to get all 40 of my blocks made up, and on the next video then we'll look at putting them together and sandwich them and doing some of our decorative stitching. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you've enjoyed this, and I look forward to seeing you back next time. And I'm real excited to get this cute little jacket made. So I will see you next time. Thanks for joining me. And if you would, please like, subscribe, share, comment, anything you can do that will help me out and help me to grow this channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. So remember, whatever you do, do it to the glory of the Lord.